Welcome back to MotionPic Recap. Today we're going to recap a movie titled The Girl Next Door. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. We are hearing different students explaining their yearbook memories, and some examples include, they will never forget winning a specific soccer game, or never forget all the beautiful girls. Some other individuals say they will never forget faking their ID cards, and others say they will never forget franking the seniors. Everyone seems to have had an eventful time at their school, having made a lot of fond memories. Suddenly we see a guy called Matthew, who cannot remember anything interesting or special that he can write down as his yearbook memories. Instead of having done things he really wants to do, he has been studying very hard to hopefully get a scholarship at the end of the year, and has just dreamt of getting a girl instead of trying to actually get one. Next, the school is gathered to plan for prom at the end of the year, and a guy tells everybody to arrive there. Already wasted, and all seem very excited for that, having been responsible for organizing to raise $25,000 to get a genius guy called Sam Young out of Cambodia. Matthew announces they succeeded, and that the guy sent a video message being very happy. Longing to have a girl, Matthew tells his two friends, Klitz and Eli, they should be going nuts right now, because they are graduating, and should go to the beach instead of staying in school. His friends don't dare to leave, but Matthew has had enough, and follows all the cool girls and boys to the beach, but on their way there a police officer is overwhelmed by them, all driving fast past him. Matthew makes eye contact with him, and is told to pull over, but then the police car crashes, and suddenly we see that Matthew was just daydreaming it all. He stays at school, and later as he comes home he sees a new car parked just on the street outside his home. His parents' friends are there, and they congratulate Matthew for graduating. And later Matthew is practicing a speech he needs to hold to be able to get the scholarship, but is distracted by a girl. Matthew calls his friend Eli and tells him about the girl next door, who looks so hot, and suddenly he sees her through his window, and meanwhile, Eli is watching some corn, asking questions about how she looks. Matthew says he will call back, and then watches as she suddenly starts to undress right in front of him. He is totally mesmerized by the view, but then is shaken to the core as she suddenly sees him looking. He sees her coming over, and his doorbell rings. He sees the girl talking to his parents, making him worried. But then his mother says this is their neighbor's niece Danielle, who is staying there for 2 weeks, as her aunt is on vacation, telling Matthew she doesn't know the town, and asks him to show her around. After a short while she stops the car, asking if he liked what he saw, and having first tried to lie saying he saw nothing, he eventually admits he saw her, but remarks it was not a big deal. She says she thinks it is a big deal, saying she wants to see him to make it even. He refuses to do it, but then suddenly stands there, and she says he must remove everything, and as he finally does she drives straight at him, and then takes his clothes and drives away. After having embarrassed him a while, she comes back and lets him jump back in. Later they sit in a restaurant, and Matthew asks about her, and she explains she has just quit her job, and kind of want to start over, and maybe go to college. He asks if she has a boyfriend, and she answers no. She remarks she heard he is graduating, and says he must be going nuts right now, asking what the craziest thing he has done is, but Matthew says nothing special has really happened lately. Danielle says he must have done something special with his girlfriend, but seeing Matthew not answering she understands his situation, and remarks she can help him figure this out, that he will just need a girl, and later the two drive home. At fencing, his friend Eli asks what is wrong with him, saying, if he had been with her, he had nailed her. And Matthew becomes unsure and remarks for himself he should have kissed her. Seeing her outside waving for him, he can't help himself but skip school, and we see a montage of them two having fun together. A couple days later Matthew explains to Danielle how they raised $25,000 to get Sam Young to go to their school. She asks what he means by, they raised $25,000, and he says a bit reluctantly that it was actually him who raised it. And she suddenly seems to look at him differently, telling him to follow her, and they drive to some random house and she runs onto the property. Matthew says, this is crazy, that they can't swim here. But she forces him to join as she jumps in, and she asks what the craziest thing he has done lately is, and suddenly the owner comes home and Matthew sees it is his principal. The two run, and later they knock on his friend's door, and Danielle jokes with them, saying she is all wet and begs to come in. But the two then says they are going out and asks if they want to join them. At the party later, some other guys trick Matthew and Danielle to get separated. And a guy tells him he is not welcome, and tells him to leave. And Matthew gets confused and uncertain what to do. A drunk guy comes up asking him where Sam Young is. And suddenly Matthew finds courage and just decides to do what he wants. And feels like doing no matter what others are thinking. And he walks up to Danielle and kisses her passionately. The next day he feels like he could do anything. And his friend Eli wants to show him something he found. Suddenly Matthew sees a corn video where Danielle is featured and he decides to leave immediately. And Eli runs after saying he must do this girl. Matthew says he likes Danielle very much, and won't do as he says. But Eli insists he does it. As he arrives him, Danielle is talking to his parents. And he starts hallucinating weird stuff. Imagining crazy things, he suddenly yells out and they all wonder what is happening to him. He goes up to his room, and Danielle follows him, asking what is happening, and says they can go outside if he wants. And he replies he needs to rest, but can see her tonight. Ully gives Matthew terrible advice, saying he should try to make her drunk, and touch her a lot. And then drive to a motel to get a room. He is very uncomfortable doing it all, and when she wonders what he's thinking, he replies he doesn't know. Danielle asks if he wants to do it, but saying he doesn't, she asks if this is what he really thought about her. Matthew says Eli told him to do this, and she replies, it was immature of him to go along with it. And when he asks why, she didn't explain she was a professional star. She says it was because she loved the way he looked at her. She doesn't want to talk to him, and several days pass by, where Matthew dreams about her. He decides to go over to her and explain he is an idiot. That he saw the tape and freaked out, but that even though he should be thinking about the scholarship, he can't stop dreaming about them going back to how it was before he did this stupid thing. Suddenly an older guy appears, and Danielle asks Matthew if they can talk later. And soon after, the guy and Matthew meet outside, and he tells Matthew he liked what he said to Danielle in there. He asks Matthew if he is friends with Danielle, and Matthew replies, they are more than friends. Danielle comes out, and the man called Kelly asks if Matthew wants to join them. And he agrees, even though he doesn't know where they are going, and soon somewhat regrets coming along but tries to act cool. As Kelly walks over to another girl for a minute, Matthew tells Danielle he wants to talk with her privately, but she asks what is wrong with talking here. Matthew wonders how they know each other as Kelly returns, and Kelly says he was a director working with Danielle. She asks Matthew what he is doing when he tries to act cool, by asking for a cigar, after which she goes to the bathroom. Matthew suddenly sees his parents' friend, and points him out for Kelly, who calls on the man to come over, saying he must know Matthew here, pressuring the guy into showing Matthew how it works here, since it is Matthew's first time. They have a weird and embarrassing time together, and next they are in school again watching some sexual education video. And the three friends wonder why the video is so boring and old. Matthew sees Kelly flirting and walks up to him. Kelly says out loud to Matthew that he never said they had such beautiful girls at his school, making the girls happy, and then tells the girls one person with a real killer bod is his friend Klitz right here. Kelly teaches the three that you always leave girls wanting more. After which they stare down the cool guys arriving. Kelly then enters director mode, remarking a video with those girls jumping some guys at a school football match or school prom would really sell, exclaiming, these ideas he gets are like a gift from God. Next, Matthew tells Kelly he didn't have to come, being visiting a bank to make sure all the $25,000 is available to pay for Sam Young when he gets there. Matthew says Kelly is his student advisor to justify him being there, and the woman says all is in order, after which Kelly starts flirting with her. Danielle says goodbye to him, saying she will continue with her job and must go to Las Vegas, and as the three friends meet later, they remark, it's all over, and comfort Matthew it's not his fault. But then Matthew says it was his fault, remarking he won't give up. The three call their parents, saying they are doing a sleepover at someone else. And next they have driven to Las Vegas to find Danielle, entering a convention that Eli especially enjoys being at. And suddenly they see her. She is making advertisement for herself and her films. And Matthew tells her with a loud voice. So she hears that he feels like this is his fault, saying she is the best thing that ever happened to him. And the two other girls remark he seems so sweet. She wants to be left alone, and suddenly bumps into another director, who says she is welcome to come back and work with him at the top, instead of with Kelly. As Kelly appears and the man leaves, Matthew walks up telling Kelly he means no offense, but says he thinks Kelly really doesn't want to be here right now. But she tells him to please go home. Next, Kelly almost starts a fight with him, saying he will lose money if he makes Danielle leave. Matthew tells his friends he needs to do something, and tells them to not cause any trouble. Suddenly a woman sits down asking what the two do, and Eli says they are directors, and she excitedly asks if they want to use her. But then her boyfriend appears who asks why she's asking them to use her. She clarifies they are directors, and suddenly he helps promote her thinking they are real directors. And they ask if they want to feel her assets, and even though Eli says no, Klitz really wants to and is allowed to. Until suddenly another guy appears saying these are not directors, but just two kids. The two manage to run away from him, and then bolt the convention. And meanwhile, somewhere else Matthew finds Danielle, and tells her he knows who she really is, and that she is better than Miss. The next day is the day of the scholarship dinner, where he's going to hold a speech. And suddenly Danielle stands behind him. She asks why he believes in her so much. And he jokingly says maybe he's just stupid. After which he asks if she wants to go with him to prom. And has never been to prom, she gladly accepts. While practicing his speech in the classroom later, suddenly Kelly appears very angry, grabbing him and dragging him out. Matthew says he has his most important dinner in his life tonight, and has to be back by 6. The two take a drive, and Kelly says he tried to be his friend. Where then he screwed him over. He says Danielle didn't show up to the next convention, and now he needs compensation for his losses. Kelly starts hitting him, remarking he knows he's trying to become a politician, and teaches him the first lesson in life and politics, which is to know if the juice is worth the squeeze. He says he's sorry and gives him a pill so that the injury on his head doesn't swell up. Kelly says he still needs compensation, and tells Matthew he has to go in and steal a trophy that his competitor called Hugo once got, saying he wants it for himself, lying he will help him search, but leaves Matthew alone. Matthew continues into the house, sees the trophy, and grabs it. But then suddenly Hugo stands there, and Matthew begins running. Kelly leaves him, and suddenly the police come and he has to hide. He calls on his friends that pick him up, but now he starts acting weird. And they conclude Kelly must have given him some sort of drug. And they go to pick up Danielle. She remarks he is very high, and he starts losing control over what he says and does. Danielle has to guide him to the scholarship dinner, and Matthew goes up wishing the other contestants good luck, but in a weird way. He then dances around while people mingle, telling people he loves them very much, and laughs a lot. The speeches start, and Matthew laughs at the other speeches. Next it's his turn, and since he can't read, he throws his notes away and starts improvising, asking the audience what moral fiber is, saying he doesn't think it is about doing good deeds. Matthew remarks he's discovered, and now thinks moral fiber is all about finding that one thing you really care about, and when you find her you fight for her and risk it all, and you put her in front of everything. People look at Danielle, understanding it all was about her, and then everybody starts applauding. The jury says it was a hard decision this year, but then says that another guy called Ryan is the winner of the scholarship. Matthew is disappointed since he has worried so much, and has been working so hard. The next day he goes to pick out the money since Sam Young is coming on Monday. But then the banker says his student advisor came by yesterday and took it. It hits him that Kelly has tricked them all, and has taken all the $25,000. And imagine Sam Young crying in Cambodia. He says the man wasn't his student advisor, and the woman attempts going to her boss to tell them what's happened. Matthew says his life is over if anybody finds out, and the woman gives him to Monday to get back the money, or he'll probably go to jail. He goes to Danielle to tell her about him being in trouble, and she proposes a crazy idea to make a video if they need that kind of money. By Monday, his friends gather to discuss making it, and Eli is immediately in on it. But Klitz is uncertain at first, and Eli has convinced him by saying they three are a tripod, and if one of them isn't helping they will fall. Next, Danielle has called some of her friends to help out. They then go to Hugo to give back his trophy, discussing the idea with him, and Hugo is in on it. A few days later they start filming the video, and it's about a school prom, where Eli and Klitz are main actors, as well as Danielle's two friends. The prom itself is taking place that evening, and they are taking a limousine to school together, and suddenly Danielle's friends start telling each other they look so beautiful. They arrive to the party, and everybody around them starts looking as they walk in. They have some sort of plan, and everyone except Matthew and Danielle go to prepare something. Suddenly 3 cool guys walk up wanting to talk, but Matthew says he can't because he is with his girl here. They get a bit jealous and then ask about the other girls that came there. Saying they recognize them, Matthew explains who they are. And the guys ask if they can meet them. Next, Matthew has convinced the guys to participate in the video, and they arrive to a room where they are filming it all. Meanwhile, Matthew gives Danielle the prom experience she has never had, and suddenly a teacher comes up to having found a photo release form of some kind with his name on it. But Matthew says it's nothing. Their date continues until suddenly the others bump into problems, where one of the guys has performance issues. Matthew tells them to ask someone else to do it, but as they say there isn't anybody else. Matthew remarks this is the key scene and that they must make it. He says this is his mess, so he will do it instead. Preparing to perform. He walks out, takes off his robe, and they begin the scene, but then suddenly someone storms in. The teacher yells angrily, asking who is in charge of all this, swearing a lot, and everybody stands frozen and totally quiet. But it was all just Matthew's imagination, and then he starts thinking about Danielle. He walks back out fully clothed, and the 3 friends start talking. And Matthew says he couldn't do it because of his love for Danielle. Suddenly, Klitz exclaims he will do it because they are a fucking tripod. And the other 2 are almost shocked. The girl tells Klitz he looks cute, and they start filming. Afterwards, they all leave the prom, celebrating with champagne in the limousine on their way home. As everybody else has left, Matthew and Danielle decides to stay in the car for a bit, having a cozy and fun time together. Early the next morning, Eli calls in desperation because the tape with all the footage is gone, and he says somebody stole it. Walking in, he sees his parents with his principal, and Kelly's is holding the tape. Kelly asks to speak with him alone, and the others leave. After which Kelly accuses Matthew of stealing his movie idea, threatening him he's going to show the tape to his parents if he doesn't sign a contract that it's Kelly's tape. Matthew then accuses Kelly for stealing the $25,000, saying he has a responsibility towards a lot of people, including Sam Young, and refuses to give him the tape. And Kelly says he will show his parents then. They start the video and it begins explaining that during prom a lot of people want to experience intimacy, and so this video is a new educational video to protect yourself from unwanted consequences. Suddenly his parents and the principal say, "This seemed very interesting," remarking this will probably make newer generations more attentive than the 30-year-old and boring educational videos schools are currently showing students around the country. They remark this could really sell, asking where he got his idea, and Matthew remarks while looking at Kelly he doesn't know, but that it's like it's a gift from God. Next, Matthew is heard saying for his yearbook memories that he will always remember the 3 legs of the tripod. The educational video becomes a success, Hugo being Matthew's current business partner, and Kelly having been his student advisor. Hugo explains his partner wants to remain anonymous. And somewhere else we see Matthew welcoming Sam Young to America. Eli is now working as a film director, having skipped film school. Lastly, we see the end of the education video, where they put the protection on the real thing, and everybody watches intently to look at the guy, remarking he is huge. Lastly, we see Matthew walking up to his girlfriend Danielle, kissing her passionately. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this, and hit the like button to help us out. Until next time, take care.